It's the pre-market ritual you never knew you needed. Get ready to Gap and Go with the Calum Trading Institute.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Gap and Go. One thing that has been finalized over the past 2 weeks has the Fed really pivoted in the right direction? And I think what we've always talked about is, there's two sides of the monetary policy. Part is inflationary, part is deflationary because of the slowdown. And I think, markets have priced in towards to the deflationary side, right? And I think the Fed is also pivoting to that end. Jason, maybe you can share your thoughts first. There's really nothing coming as a surprise based on movement. I think everything has been priced in, and that's the reason why you're seeing your S&P sit on new highs. But maybe to help everyone here, how far can this train still go?
I think walang may alam whether what's going to happen, right? I think yung last Fed, right, they cut 25 basis points, but if you look at the dot plot, diba, it's one of the most, there's a big spread among the members. Diba? And parang to me, it reflects clearly what's happening today. Whether, okay, deflationary ba, inflationary ba, stagflationary, reflationary, who knows, right? But I think that undoubtedly, the pivot of the Fed, to me, is really bullish. And I think that's why, after the Fed meeting, we thought it was going to be a sell-on news. But I think the market continued to blast new highs. And I think if you look at history, every time now that the Fed cuts, when the market is within 2% of all-time highs, it's higher 20 out of 20 times in the past. Diba? Kasi nga, parang I think there's a reason why the market's so high as well, diba? And parang to me, I don't see the hard landing as well. Diba? And that's why I think a lot of things are stretched, but I'd be very careful of being a contrarian at this point. I think that you would be surprised how far these trends can go. Kahit nga AI, I think Semicon this week, diba? Blasting off to all-time highs again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's nothing. What's the best way to put it? 2 weeks ago we talked about a Goldilocks scenario, right, where growth is still intact, monetary policy is still accommodative, and you're not seeing some overheat happen, especially from the commodity side, right? In fact, you didn't see anything despite what's happening. Everybody's been calling for a shift now into commodities. That still hasn't happened. You look at oil's still sitting near its 52-week lows. So there's really no shock. From how we're seeing it at today's level, right? Especially from the supply chain end. So everybody knows demand is weakening, and that's the reason why people are. The government is printing more money, and it's I think the reason why the point I'm trying to make is there's really nothing coming as a surprise, and especially from a systemic point of view, if you see any systemic risk, there's none. So far there's none, right? Leverage, we don't see it. I think everything is just going according to normal, and that's the reason why, even in terms of speculative movement, I'm sure Brian would probably give us a better idea. Even in stocks that are speculative movement, still very much in play, both from energy, both from even cloud, quantum computing, etc.
Nuclear.
Yeah, the market has been theme centered now. So what you said, yung alternative energy. So in the US, all energy sources in play because naghahabol nga sila for their AI, diba? So yung mga Oklo mo, that's why your small modular reactors like Oklo, SMR are going up. Tapos, if you see the actions of the government, they're trying to buy into some companies, like yung mga rare earth issues.
Saka yung Intel, right?
Intel, sa rare earth, if you look at MP, diba, they supported it, what, 2 months ago? And also, just today, LAC, I think they're buying into, so if you look at LAC, ano yan eh, it's gap up today, 75%. So they announced it this morning that the government is buying into it. And also MU, so they're planning to buy into MU also. So they're securing these mga chips eh. So they're also batteries recently, somehow energy related. So AMP Exmo, what else? Aside from that, yung mga data centers, something that would feed the AI evolution, yung mga NBIS, KPLD, even iron.
You know, I was laughing because I think we're starting to see a common theme, right? And you're starting to see this actually all over the world where countries are now becoming more authoritarian. And to be honest, I'm not surprised, right? Because whenever you're seeing this shift in global order, everybody's trying to remain the dominant power. And we've seen what's happening with China. And this fight is not going to end. And you've seen it with US versus everyone else because they're also stuck in a corner, right? And will that shift in power happen? They're trying to do everything that they can to remain in that dominant position, which they still are, don't get me wrong. Diba? And that's the reason why you're starting to see even all these household names. I mean, you've never seen this before where the government comes in and takes a stake. Diba? It's always free market.
It's copying, actually copying China.
China, right? You never seen this type of investment that happens because it's always free market.
State-owned,
right?
State-owned.
State-owned, diba? Bihira naman to. Sorry, hindi pa bihira. Parang I've never seen this happen in the US before. And it's happening today, which I'm not disagreeing with that. I think it's also the right move.
Yeah, it's the right move.
Right? So at least the interest of the nation plus the interest of the private is all about USA first, diba?
I think, yeah. I mean, if you look at history, you know, like every time there's a lot of conflict, actually, kailangan mo maging authoritarian. Right?
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely going there.
And then you see the relations. I think the bigger impact, right, is not just putting America first, but even having the workforce be American, right? I think that's part of the reason why they've been attacking even their closest partners, diba? Canada, Mexico, which all bowed down. European nation also bowed down to the Americans. But more so that the what do you call that? Emerging market, for example, like India, really made a huge pivot in foreign relations, right? I think that part has been clear last week. $100,000 H-1B visas.
Yes.
And call centers also being taxed. I think there's a call center tax law being done also in the US. So everything's really targeted to keep America first. I mean, if you're not in the interest of the in helping out the Americas, you're out of the ball game, right? And I think that part has been absolutely clear, right? Even Mexico last week, I think first time bumigay din eh. So Mexico last week talked about higher tariffs for Chinese imports, right? So it's nothing new. I don't think what US is, well, I think it is wrong because you're turning your common friends. In fact, you're making your enemies stronger. That's how I see it, right? But again, it's a chicken and egg. Right? I think the goal really at the end of the day is to make America first. And I think we're seeing that across the board. And I think it's partly good for the equity market, mostly because all this allows more speculation happen in the, and actually it's easier to spot, surprisingly. So it's like you're just following where money is going to be moving and where the government is going to be moving. And I think it's easier to spot from a stock market perspective, which are going to be the biggest winners therefore after. And we talked about a lot about raw materials. You talked about lithium. You talked about rare earth, right? You're probably going to see everything AI related, and they're probably going to take more positions in anything AI related. Okay, I think that is mostly happening in the US. One thing that has concerned me a bit about this froth is the weakness in the crypto market. So I'm not saying it's going to go down. I think crypto has actually been doing very well this past few months, right? I think more than double, not just in cryptocurrency, but even in alternative assets, especially in your precious metals, gold and silver. But one of the things that have really outperformed again has been your cryptocurrencies. I think they're at a critical juncture right now. I mean, in the short term, and I think these are a little bit concerning for me on the speculative end. In fact, you've not just seen this start to break down. In fact, you've seen some speculative companies start capital raising over the past week.
Yeah.
Brian, you can talk about it. I mean, you've seen Joby, not QuantumScape. There's another quantum.
Qubit, QUBT. I think placed out.
Yep, all these guys didn't place out over the past week.
If you're a speculative stock, I think it's smart to do it. Diba? This when prices are frothy. So most of the things I see, especially movers that I see, on one day they'll be up 2,000%, like the likes of OCTO. So yeah, orbs pala yan. So one day up 2,000%, then place up. So this is parang pump and dump siya. So they take advantage of the price to raise money. So most of them, I think there's a new industry now. It's called the crypto treasury industry. So most of these parang sa Philippines it's called basura shell, parang shell company. So a lot of actually biotech related issues that have been inactive for the past how many years have been taken over to push the price and raise money to invest in
mga
Ethereum, ganyan, Bitcoin,
treasury companies, parang monster.
Treasury. So, which is very consistent to what Scott Bessent is asking the market, which is include treasuries in your using cryptos, diba? So I think that's the goal eventually. I saw 10-20 issues already. It's either Solana, it's either a combination of Bitcoin, Ethereum. BMNR is an example. So BMNR,
yung stable coins.
Oh, stable coins yun eh. So
Most stable coins, tapos bibili ng treasuries.
Oh, I think that's the goal. So it started with BMNR, si Tom Lee, Druckenmiller, and Peter Thiel. So dito naman, this stock is focused on Ethereum naman. So they keep on raising money to buy cryptos. So ito recently, for example, nag-issue siya 300 million with warrants to buy at $80. Diba? So ibig sabihin, the only way they'll be able to raise, the goal is to raise 1.5 billion. So they're selling their warrants at 70, but you'll be able to buy the warrants at 87 yata. So for the market, parang tutulakin to above 87 kasi you wouldn't be attracted to buy it if it's below 87. So the only way they'll be able to raise it is if the price reaches
that. Sounds really dangerous.
It's actually less than about the treasury, right? I think BMNR, I mean, if you take a look at BMNR, MSTR, it's more you're just buying the physical gold, or in this case, Ethereum. So like the average cost of BMNR today is $4,500 per Ethereum. In the case of MSTR, I think it went up also, but I forgot what that average is, but I think the point being here is they're just using it as a direct ownership instead of going through Ethereum. You're buying it for exactly what it is, right? And that's the problem that I also don't understand. I mean, why don't you just go straight? And this is becoming like a holding company of Ethereum,
Your liability kasi.
right? And then you it's just being a holding company of Ethereum. The other one is becoming a holding company of Bitcoin. And I really don't understand how that will play out. I mean, from a treasury. I mean, I get it. It's a treasury, right? Inisip ko na lang parang CTS Global eh. So that's just how I'm seeing it, right? But in the same case, it's like, at least in the case of, for example, like Circle, I mean, take away all the valuation concerns about Circle. At least from a business model perspective, to some extent, at least I can understand, right? Again, these guys are using stable coins. I mean, Circle is a stable coin, right? Indirectly, they're just getting their fees from buying treasury, right? So indirectly, para silang broker ng, they are a broker for fixed income securities indirectly, right? So if you buy treasury through the Circle platform, indirectly, they just get their fees on that end, right? Which is a small amount, as opposed to buying directly in treasuries, right? But I think that's where.
Is it because it's easier to raise money through equities? Cost of raising money is easier for them.
To be honest, I really don't know. I really don't, and I don't know. I mean, I wish I had an answer for it. I just don't know. It's just in the same case. Like, why don't you just buy the ETFs for these guys, right? Indirectly, it's the same thing. So I'm not sure how really much of a difference you get from buying it from a treasury or buying it from. I don't know where the upside is going to come from. I think that's the point. I mean, the additional upside aside from the coin that you're buying. But again, another story, another thing to digest. Looks like they're all in play anyway. But I think the point being here is just be extra careful. I think what's causing some concern on my end on the frothiness is really the weakness in the crypto market right now. And don't get me wrong, it could be temporary. And I think it is going to be temporary, but it's just something to watch out for in the short term, which could lead to a spike in your VIX. Okay, now I think the hottest market we've always been talking about, and for me, which is exactly what's been happening. You see a breakout finally in Hong Kong tech. I think we've been fairly positive on Hong Kong and in China. Again, the narrative is very clear. Cheapest interest rates, inflation down, growth weak. And then at the end of the day, valuations are still attractive. And then you're starting to see more participation happen on the tech side. Again, you're even seeing mandates coming from Chinese government, stop buying NVIDIA chips, make it your own. You've seen a rally in Alibaba, even on your foundries on semiconductor, SMIC, even on the smaller caps, right? And I think this is all boding well for Hong Kong and China. And that's the reason why you're starting to see a spillover also in high-tech teams and in AI teams, right? Some of our favorites we talked about, even on biotech AI, automation AI, robotics AI, all of them did well over the past few weeks. And hopefully this continues. I mean, these have been the same stories. Nothing really different than the US in terms of teams. I think the good part is, like what we always say, high tide lifts all boats. And it looks like China is in the early stage of this high tide. And honestly, I love this pullback. I think it's probably going to, as long as it starts to stabilize here, I think you'll probably see a next leg forward for Hong Kong and China.
Yeah, I think the tariff punches being thrown is benefiting everyone. You noticed.
True. And I think it's more because they built better relations with even their enemies, right? Look at China and India. They've been fighting over the border for so long. And then now you see them holding hands, right?
I mean, kasi I think the issue has been supply chain, diba? Yung supply chain being disrupted. But if you notice, the more they prolong it, better everyone else is. I think that's the game plan. Hindi pa ready yung US to let go of it because all the manufacturing facilities are not yet there. I think it will be extended until the end of 2026. They have no choice but to do it. And even if you throw punches at like yung semicon chips nila, diba? Yung Nvidia not being allowed to sell in China. Ayun, Nvidia new high pa din. So I think it's medyo on the side na yung tariff issue of China versus US. Parang
Well,
I think it's a lost cause. That's why. Right?
parang they know already.
They know it's a lost
They
cause.
know, yeah.
I'm not saying they won't stay dominant. I think it's inevitable. And that's the reason why you talk about China. China is, look at the news the last few weeks on China. They're shut up lang sila eh. Diba? Tahimik na lang eh. Which is totoo naman eh. I mean, you can talk. China, and they just shut up because they know it's inevitable, right? So they might as well keep their mouth shut because they know they have everything to lose in this, the more that they do something, right? And think of it this way. India, China, what's that? 30, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, 30% of global population? That's what, 3 billion people?
3 billion.
8 billion?
maybe even more.
Oh, diba? So whatever you say, right? They have the manpower, they have the middle class, they have the talent, and I think that alone speaks for itself, right? Okay, I think that's part here. So I also get this question about picking stocks in Hong Kong, right? And there are outliers, which I also agree. But what I tell people, the safest bet is always buying the ETF. And for me, it's simple. The reason why it's so easy to pick stocks today is because a lot of the return now is coming from beta, not just alpha. And for me, the best play to participate in these cases is just to have a higher exposure towards beta. Because again, this theory is your individual stocks are not going to go up higher, are not going to go higher if the market also does not go higher. So I think that has been clear on that end. All right. Last but not the least, kawawa talagang Pilipinas. All right. So Philippines.
Ghost market.
We did the runoff on valuations, holding companies on average 6 times PE. Telcos, almost 9% cash dividend, PLDT 6.5% for Globe, even Converge, which got demolished over the past 2 weeks, 5% cash dividend today. And it's not like this company is not growing also. In fact, Converge is probably the most efficient out of the three. They reduced guidance, although business has been slowing down, but they're still growing at 10%. Their share prices just got destroyed. So I don't know what to look forward towards. Ayala less than 500 pesos per share. Many of these holding companies all retesting and even going 52-week lows. So I don't know what your thoughts are on the Philippines.
Is Ayala below the COVID price already?
Yes, it is. Hindi ba? Hindi pala. Sorry.
Hindi pa.
Well, to me, if you look at the news, I mean, that says everything, right? I think everyone's in a wait-and-see mode. And syempre, if you're tackling corruption, I think the side effect in the short term is, syempre, I think spending is going to slow down, right? Investors are going to be cautious. But actually, the big picture, a little more bullish. Kasi parang feeling ko, maybe this catalyzes some improvement in governance, right? More accountability.
Bully ka pa. Okay ka. I think the market has already, I mean, skipping all the politics aside, right? I think the market has priced all of those, well, has not, what's the best way to put it? Is ignorant. I think that's a better word. Is ignorant to all the negative news that has been happening. And it just provides further conviction that, the foreigners, we've been selling the last 15 years on Philippine market, never comes back. And it just signals that, okay, we did the right decision, right? Parang we never touched the Philippines despite it being 8-9 times PE. And I think that's basically the story that market is playing around.
I'm afraid we might need Javier Milei to cause a bull market. Yung si
Argentina.
oh,
Wait,
yung the Argentina
Argentina.
guy, diba?
Uh,
To cause a bull market. Wala eh. I think it seems that way. Kasi very highly debt dependent, diba? If you look at your 10-year, parang sa Philippines, parang ayaw na naman bumaba.
well, I think the good part about all this, I guess there is a good part, like what Jason was saying. So say, for example, like 2026 budget, especially for flood control, DPWH, has been reduced by 30%. And that 300 billion was expected to go straight into, well, it's supposed to go to PhilHealth, but the purpose of this was really just to go straight to the pockets of the people. And I think that's what is, I mean, the good part about all this thing that has been happening. Again, there's just too much money. I mean, there's 7 trillion in budget every year, right? And you only hope that more, like slightly more than half of it goes straight into the Philippine economy, not into the pockets of these politicians.
Yeah. I mean, when I see the amounts, sabi ko, mayaman pala tayo eh. Dapat.
Mayaman.
Oh well, hopefully there's more prudence in fiscal spending going forward, and that provides an avenue for, better fiscal discipline. If you guys want to take a look what 1 trillion looks like, just Google the $2 trillion rupiah that was paid out by Wilmar International, and you'll be able to see what 1 trillion peso looks like stacked on one another. All right. So with that being said, I think that's pretty much it for today's Gap and Go. Again, we talked about the Philippines versus the US. We talked about emerging market. Nothing really coming as a surprise. I think the markets in developed markets in the US especially has been chugging along. The narrative hasn't changed. We're going to be cutting interest rates because of a weak job market. We understand inflation is going to be elevated in the short term, but looking forward 12 months down the road, maybe we might start to see some decline. And I think that's the message markets are making today, right? I think we're just a little bit worried today. So we're also telling everybody to be careful because I think some of the speculative parts are actually still in play. Don't get me wrong. But I think one part that we're watching out for is your crypto market, which apparently are showing signs of weakness in the short term. With that being said, just play defensive. I think markets still have ways to chug along. There's been reports that the RUT has been sitting at highest shorts today, and I'm not surprised also. And I think that's the reason why this will continue to fuel the bull market that we're seeing in the United States. Again, for us, an easier call the last few weeks has been Hong Kong and China, and that continues to be my stance. I'm still very much participating in every single pullback that happens, and I continue to like Hong Kong and China. And I think we'll probably still see higher moves forward for Hong Kong. Last but not the least is Philippines. Praying for the Philippines. It's always a buy low, sell high type of environment. Good thing about everything that's happening here is we're seeing yields very high in select sectors. And I think it's just playing a patient game in the Philippines. I understand the frustration on the Philippine index. I think everybody understands the frustration. But for me, the best thing to do is change your expectation of it, and just understand that all these sell-offs, in my opinion, also will not be that drastic. And any sell-off should also be a chance for you to start accumulating those shares every time it capitulates on that end. All right. So with that being said, I think that is everything we need to touch about for today's Gap and Go. And I'll see you guys 2 weeks from now. Bye, guys.
Bye.